Hey everybody, welcome to another TFL Now video. We are talking about something that is a highly contentious issue. Did the truck manufacturers switch to electric trucks too soon and too fast?
You know, it's an interesting question. I don't know if it's necessarily a question of timing or maybe it's something to do with demand.
Yeah, so in this video, we're gonna give you our 2 cents. We're also gonna look at sales numbers and talk about how the new crop of electric trucks is doing. Because for a long time, if you wanted a full-size truck, you had a choice of gas, maybe diesel engine options, right? And then there was a huge push from the vehicle manufacturers to jump on the EV bandwagon. And now it kind of feels like the market is pulling back a little bit on some of the electrification. So Case, let's talk about some of the sales numbers that were just published on EV trucks and let's see how they are selling.
Today's video is made possible by Factor Meals, and these guys solve a huge problem for me because after I get done at the gym, the last thing I want to do is pour more time and energy into making a meal, but these are healthy, never frozen meals that are easy to make.
Factor takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. Skip the grocery store and prep work. Instead, get chef-crafted meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, plus more. Factor is great because you get to skip the overpriced takeout trap. Say that 3 times fast. And these meals are genuinely good and can be made in just a couple minutes.
Factor Meals also save you the time of prepping, cooking, and cleaning up. All you have to do is heat these up and savor the good stuff. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code TFLEV50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code TFLEV50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box, plus that 20% off your next month of orders. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because there are certain trucks like the F-150 Lightning that sold over 7,000 units in Q3 of this year, 2024, as compared to 3,500 units in Q3 of 2023. So they've sold more Lightnings this year than last year. That's true for a couple of these electric trucks, like the Hummer EV, sold 4,300 units in Q3 of this year versus 1,100 in the same quarter last year. Some of that might be down to manufacturing and supply. You know, there's a few other factors there than just demand. But when we look at numbers like that compared to the numbers for combustion engine trucks, well, it's very different because, for example, just the Toyota Tundra, which on this list of full-size gas-powered trucks or hybrid, the Tundra this year in Q3 sold about 39,000 units. And that's the worst seller of all the full-size trucks compared to the GMC Sierra, the Silverado, the Rams, the F-Series.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at GM trucks combined, we're looking at 214,000. Ford F-Series combined, 198,000. So if we look at like the Ford lineup, like 198,000 F-Series, 7,000 Lightnings. So it's a pretty small number with Lightnings. And then, you know, we've got some new trucks on the market, like the Silverado EV, Sierra EV. We can't really compare to previous year's numbers, but we do have trucks like the Rivians, right, which are down a little bit on sales, is the latest headline.
Yeah, they are. They're down a little bit. So in Q3, they sold or delivered just over 10,000 units. And that's compared to around 15,500 in the same quarter last year. So down. Those are also combined numbers between the trucks and the SUVs.
Gotcha.
That's not broken down specifically into one or the other. But yeah, they are down on those. And they say, at least, that part of that is lingering supply issues. So they're saying more so a manufacturing thing than demand.
So let's look at the market as a whole, right? EV trucks are still a very small percentage of total truck and SUV sales here in the US. And we've also seen some manufacturers backtracking a little bit on some rather aggressive plans to switch to EVs. So Ford, you know, recently announced that they're slowing down some of their EV rollout in favor of plug-in hybrids, standard hybrids, and other powertrains. So Expedition EV delayed, right? The new T3 trucks by Ford also delayed, which is supposed to be the next generation of EV truck. And let me kind of give you my 2 cents as to what was happening. So a few years ago, there was a really big push toward electrification. There's a lot of excitement around the future of electrics, right? And then these manufacturers worked really, really hard to get these trucks to market as fast as they could. So be it the Rivians, the Cybertrucks, the Lightning was really early on.
Yeah, the Cybertruck took a while.
Yeah, Cybertruck was not early on. And then, of course, recently the Silverado EV. But it seems like in recent months, especially in this election year when things are so polarizing, that folks seem to be withdrawing a little bit on some of their truck excitement with EVs, which is why we're seeing a shift from not only Ford's EV program, but others like Hyundai too, also going back to some internal combustion stuff and delaying some of their EV transition a little bit. So it kind of feels like the push to EVs was a little premature. Now let's talk about some of the pros and the cons from a truck standpoint of going electric.
Yeah, because there are some pros. Performance in a lot of ways is really good. Acceleration, not that most people are buying trucks for acceleration, but like it or not, it is a factor. And it's a factor as far as general performance goes. If you're trying to pull a trailer, if your truck struggles to get up to highway speeds, pulling a trailer, then that's not great as far as performance is concerned.
Sure.
EV trucks tend to accelerate really well, even when hooked up to a trailer. They are starting to produce some pretty decent off-road trucks in the electric space.
Yep.
Like it or not, the Cybertruck is actually pretty decent off-road. The Rivian's not so bad, and they've been making updates to the Rivians and the Hummer EVs that have made them better off-road. But of course, there is the large issue of range, and especially range while towing, that is a big detractor for a lot of more traditional truck people.
So I think another couple of factors worth considering is the running cost. If you have a place to charge your EV truck up at home, that cost per mile is going to be significantly less than even the most affordable gas stations. Even if you live in a fairly expensive state to charge, it's typically going to be well under 50% the cost to go the same distance electric to gasoline. Now, if you have to rely on public infrastructure, charging up your EV on the go can be expensive and a real pain. But it seems, at least, seat of the pants experience from what folks have been emailing us about, that most folks that have a Lightning or a Rivian or a Silverado EV have a place to charge it at home. Another thing to consider is a significant reduction in maintenance costs, right? There's no oil to change, and there's a lot fewer drivetrain components to really go wrong. Now, obviously, the flip side of that is if a battery fails, that's going to be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, right?
Yeah.
We have seen significant data come out recently showing that battery degradation is not the problem we once thought it was. Something like 90% of Teslas on the road today, even manufactured since 2012, still have over 90% of the battery capacity remaining. And we're talking over the course of hundreds of thousands of miles. So it seems that apart from certain use cases like the Nissan Leaf that had a really high battery degradation
partly
occurrence,
because not partly, mostly because it had
air-cooled
battery, which especially in hot climates and trying to run at highway speeds is not very good for an air-cooled battery. So yeah, battery degradation and the cost of replacing a battery doesn't seem to be the big issue that a lot of people did and still do make it out to be. But that being said, if we're making a cost argument with an EV truck versus a combustion engine truck, granted, most trucks are getting pretty expensive right now, but the Silverado EV work truck?
Yeah, it's like $72,000, over 70 grand.
Which is not, you could do a couple oil changes and quite a few tanks of fuel for $70,000.
100%. What we're seeing now, which is interesting, is when the EV trucks launched, for the most part, maybe Lightning to an exception, vehicles like that Silverado EV were offensively expensive.
Yeah.
And I think to maybe bring sales up a little bit, we've actually seen some pretty significant reductions in costs. Like that Silverado EV now, the base truck it came down something like $20,000 for the 2025 model year, right? The prices are starting to come down on the trucks, which is great.
Yeah, they need to.
The capability, though, is not necessarily equal, like Case was saying. So the Silverado EV we tested, monster battery, right? Huge battery pack, went huge towing range. We were seeing over 200 miles towing. I think it was a 7,000-pound trailer that you guys did with Andre.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good and is getting more or less on par with a smaller fuel tank in like a full-size truck. The problem, of course, comes down to refill time when you're out on the road, which is still nowhere near the gasoline standards.
Well, and also the fact that most charging stations are not set up for you to pull up with a trailer. So yeah, if you have to tow any considerable distance, more than a few miles on a regular basis, EV trucks are just not really a great solution.
No.
But if you're looking for a truck as a daily driver that needs to be able to haul some things around, maybe for personal projects that you're doing, if you do a lot of landscaping around your house, you just need a bed to throw project stuff in, then an EV truck can be great because, yeah, you can charge it up at home. I'd be willing to wager that most people would waste more time in their lives going to the gas station every other week than the time that they would spend on a road trip stopping every hour or two to charge for a half hour.
Sure. No, that's a really interesting point, Case. Another pro with an EV. Now, I think the missed opportunity case in this industry is the plug-in hybrid, right? And we're just starting to kind of dabble in that world with vehicles like the new Ram Charger, right? What these vehicles offer is maybe 50, 60 miles of EV range, but then a backup gas engine if you wanted to tow long distance or you're looking to drive long distance even. So what do you think of that solution?
I think it's cool. Definitely a good opportunity to potentially take advantage of the best aspects of both combustion and electrification if the range extender, if that gasoline engine is able to keep up with the power demands of pulling a trailer uphill somewhere like I-70.
No, I think that there's a lot of potential here for plug-in hybrids. I actually just drove my first plug-in hybrid truck. It's manufactured by a company called BYD, Chinese company. Now, this is a really interesting concept. So it's a $47,000 truck, basically fully loaded. We're talking heated seats, heated steering wheel, four-wheel drive, 450 horsepower. It's a mid-sized truck. About 60 miles of full electric range, and then a turbo four-cylinder to recharge the batteries, kind of like a locomotive, more or less. When
A little smaller. But
yeah, when the batteries have gone flat. And that vehicle also has the ability to power the wheels directly with the clutch system for highway cruising, which is more efficient to run on gasoline. That was a really good example of how the system could work. Now, we didn't tow with it. We didn't have an opportunity to. But if we can bring this technology to F-150 size trucks along with Super Duty size trucks and make it effective for long distance, this could be a game changer for electrification as a whole.
Yeah, and to your point there is the potential for a really cool system where you would replicate kind of like what a lot of large industrial machines do, where you're using electric motors to generate the actual power that's moving the vehicle, because electric motors can produce a tremendous amount of power.
Right.
And then you're using combustion to create the electricity for it.
Right.
Has the potential to create a pretty stellar truck as far as performance is concerned. There's obviously some complexity in a powertrain like that because you have both the electric motor and battery system as well as a combustion engine, all part of that system. What I think would be a really killer combination, if they could make it happen and bring it to market, would be a diesel electric, a diesel generator supplying power for electric motors on something like an HD truck. But I know as far as marketing is concerned from some industry experts that we've talked to, that seems like something they fear would be difficult to market. This is oversimplifying.
The perception of diesel and environmental impacts,
Yeah, and the reverse, how diesel people a lot of times feel about electrification.
So I think, did the manufacturers switch too early? I think what they did is they jumped into the deep end without going through that stepping stone of the plug-in hybrid. And I think now we're going to revert back to that technology, which is going to be, I think, successful in the long run. I think people are really going to like plug-in hybrids in their truck segment. And I think that's going to be a great solution for the next few years. What do you think, Case?
Yeah, I think that gives you potentially the best of both worlds, because you could do your regular commuting, ideally on all electric. And then when you need the range, you've got the range that you need. So as long as those systems perform as well as we would want them to, then it'd be a great middle ground.
Well, let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. This has been Tommy.
And Case, and yeah, there's going to be
quite the number of comments.
Talking in the
Bring it on. That's fine, guys. We'll see you next time here at TFL Now. Thanks for watching.